Yeah, good afternoon, my lovely people. Banange, abantu bange. They were asking me a question yesterday why I cut off my hair. I'm in a period of mourning. I'm mourning. And a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who happens to be a lady friend of mine. It's called discretion. Discretion is when you let things be, But anyway, today we are doing the synopsis 10 of our famous story, The Untold Memories of 1985. 1985 ngawe mukimanyi was a very, very fundamental year. Bintu bingi nnyo ebya happeninga mu Uganda, Uganda, where I'm born, my country, Uganda. You see, although I'm away for a very long time, it's coming to 25 years. Can you believe it? But I still hold on to these memories because they count. Moving to bingi nnyo. But anyway, our synopsis followed a timeline that began more or less around the time my dad and Uncle Patrick come of age. Ng'abavubuka bamaze okusoma batandise obulamu, and they're getting about and about. Do you get where we came from? That's how far the story began. And that was 1972. In 1972, we talked about the much anticipated wedding of the year. And I think it's the only wedding that has been at that level in Uganda. Because just even drawing the president at the time, Idi Amin, who unceremoniously made a presence, and then 3 years later he also gets married during the African summit. And then I think he was he was impressed by what he saw. And then of course we talked about Express Football Club, Mukwano gwa Bangi, its genesis. Yeah. Express Football Club Mukwano gwa Bangi yali team. It was founded by, of course, the name that everybody picks on is Jolly Joe Kiwanuka, but he was one of the founding members with other of his friends who were in the media at the time, print media. So that was 1957, people. So that was pre-independence. So come post-independence, things take another direction until 1977, when they humiliatingly defeat Simba FC. Simba FC was the army team, the army club, football club for the Uganda army. And then events thereafter, Express is banned, and many of its people who were in charge go to exile, or they jump ship, they left the country, So wait to be right there. However, KCC Football Club, Kampala City Council, yali team oba yali club y'abagagga. It was in Kampala, and it was part of the mumanyi bino ebya local authority bibeera, city council, or because that was the template later on that many of the other clubs followed. UCB, Naitiru, Bank of Uganda, So zona team ezajja za following anga template you had to be part of something. You had to come through something. And that was the founding, Uganda Cup, was set up as Kakunguru Cup. In 1971, it was the Kakunguru Cup, as it was called. Then later on it became the Uganda Cup. They changed the name. So that's how the story pretty much went back and forth. We went back and forth until 1985 when we bring in Uncle Patrick Chwanuka, my uncle. Nembagamba nti Uncle Patrick ne taata wange, my dad, were childhood friends. They grew up together. They went to school together. They were, they had a lot in common. They did things together. They became billionaires together. Kakati mu 1985, the events in the country, ebyali bigenda maaso mu Uganda, mubimanyi bulungi nnyo. There's no repeating myself there. But prior to that, in 1980, waliwo elections. The first elections in Uganda, we can call it general elections, which were bitterly contested when the president, Dr. Milton Obote, was brought in and given power. Ekintu ekyo nze nkitegeera bulungi nnyo kyali kigenda maaso. N'ebyaliwo, it's called power broking. Kubanga Uncle Paulo ne muzeeyi wange baalinga bonna. Naye lwakuba muzeeyi wange tali nnyo muti, tali bya politics. N'ebintu baabyogeranga awo, n'ebyalingawo. Sijja bagamba nti no baali mu gavumenti y'Obote, bamuzeeyi bange, ba Uncle Patrick wabona. But they were, I think, of course, for the sake of the country, kati ba businessmen bepositioninga mubimanyi ebyo. So you get access to things like sweet deals, tenders, projects, bintu bibeerayo mu government eba bitambula. Kyova olaba bayagala nnyo enseetereere. 1995, after the overthrow of the president of Uganda, Dr. Milton Obote. So kakati okutegeera synopsis eno yonna. Let's go back. Where did it all begin? It began as my memories. 1985, nabagamba, the country was swept up. There was this euphoria. I think that was coming from the fear that had, following the overthrow. Bwe bajjako gavumenti, kyengamba nti gavumenti y'Obote bagijjako, ensi yali ku bunkenke bw'amaanyi nnyo. There was this, kubanga abantu baafiirwa ebintu bingi. Njogera ku bagagga kati nga bamuzeeyi baffe. Eventually ne bayingira kye baayita syndicate nti beegatta abagagga bakozese omupiira nga benchmark okustabilizinga ensi. And I think it was a winning formula. Abategera bye mbagamba mubimanyi. These things happen in different ways. Kakati nga bwe tukozesa example ye Congo oba Zaire. Baakosa nnyo music. Congolese music. Lingala. Bwe nabagambye jjo rumba, sukusu byani byonna. The music was so popular that it became a national export. The same with what? With South Africa during the freedom struggle. Music played a very, very big role in, putting the word out. Kakati, when it came to Uganda, what was the doable thing? Kiki abaali basobola okukola ebiseera ebyo. They had to use football. Kakati oyo tuyingidde gavumenti ey'Obote, Obote 2. Kakati Obote, knowing how he had come into power, okuyingira obufuzi, I think yaliko abaali bakiwaniridde okumukomyawo. Kiraba kubanga ffe twawuliranga nti president yabeeranga mu State House. No, yabeeranga mu Nile Mansion, nti yabeeranga mu State House because Nakasero waliwo State House. Nakasero eringa State Lodge bwe baaziyitanga ezo ziroogi, muzijjukira ezo zaali every region. Masaka, Jinja, Karamoja, Arua, zaali spread all over. Wherever the president went, he had residence. He could reside there and then run the country, make decisions. Naye emyaka 5 Obote gye yafuga tiyava mu Nile Mansion. Bagambanga nti yabeeranga omu nga atamidde, so he was always drinking whiskey. Anyway, tuveeyo. Ne tuyingizaamu maama wange in this synopsis nti my mom, having entered the civil service during Amin's regime, kubanga Amin kye yasooka okukola kyali bwe kiti, yakwata abantu n'abatwala mu ebyo bya East African community. Mubijjukira ebyo ne basoma, especially abakazi, abaana ab'obuwala bangi nnyo today abayinza okugamba nti basomere Kenya ebya secretarial. There was even the East African Civil Service Institute. Nga ogenda n'osoma ebya civil service. But when it came to my mom, my dad, he had a very instrumental ku kintu ekyo. After the wedding, kyemanyi kyentegeddeko kiri bwe kiti. Some connections were established. Kubanga Idi Amin yayagala nnyo okumanya who was who and who was doing what and who was doing this, who was doing that. Especially abagagga abatalina any side okumuopposinga. Kubanga of course ebyaliwo byali nti those who were more or less a threat were purged, were always, ekitta abantu kyalingawo. But from that, what I recount nti muzeeyi wange ogaggawala ekiyitiridde nnyo mu 70s yali mu business. Kiraba ng'olwo baali na partnership ne wava muno Uncle Gordon eya Spears and Touring. Kati Gordon badda mbya Mercedes Benz kubanga ebyo nabyo biwanvu. That's another story. My dad branched into industrial. Yali industrialist. Era n'emikwano ne bamulwana abo. Ebyo nabyo sijja bigenda mukwana nabyo biwanvu. Muli ship toothbrush. Kati later wayingira mu Lake Victoria Bottling Company. Kakati eyo bottling company kyemutamanyi mu 1980 when the Obote government brings about the 51-49% share. Naye before that byali under the cooperatives. Ebintu bali introduce them 65. Kakati bwe tuyingira mu East African community. Buli kimu kyali divided. Oba mu kitega kyembagamba regional. Ti Kenya ya specializing mu bino, Tanzania ne specializing mu bino. So a lot of things were distributed around. Naye nga prior to that, kati bamuzeeyi bange bo baali basomye ebyo cooperatives. Mutegeka cooperatives bye twali tuyingidde ebya communism, common man's charter. Akati baba tuttewa Russia mu 60s kyangamba. So baali bayize ebintu bingi nnyo. They were familiar with so many things, having been exposed. And those are the ones who become the elite because they had all the connections. Kiraba n'emikwano awo we tutandikira kubanga abamu bayinza okwebuuza nti how did your dad become so rich during Amin's regime? No. He had already set up himself, and then when he enters the business, later on things even go way up to the stratosphere. Yagaggawala ekiyitiridde mu 80s ngono bayingidde ebyamafuta ebya UPET, because all those things were dismantled when Uganda, I don't know who came up with the decision, East African Community ebeere disbanded kubanga mwalimu ebintu bingi nnyo nga bwe mbadde mbagambye. Mwalimu railways, mwalimu amafuta, mwalimu airlines, mwalimu East African hotels, mwalimu industry. Everything was East African industries. So in the process kyembagamba nti there were definitely winners in that. Of course muba mumanyi ababa bakifunamu abanene ababeera mu gavumenti oba n'ababeera well connected. Mulaba kyengenda obagamba nti bwe kyajja mu mupiira, when it came to football, omupiira gwali gufuuse gw'abagagga nga mwe batereka sente zaabwe zatambuliranga mu mupiira. Kakati by 1985 the onus was on the billionaires, ye syndicate gye nabagamba. Emirimu bino mubistudinge bulungi nnyo, kubanga kakati nze kyembagamba kye nalabako naliyo mu kisaawe nti the cup final was a dress rehearsal, was an outfit of what was happening in the country. Can I repeat it? Nti hardly a fortnight, white weeks nga 2-3 government nekyuka, ngamba eyaliko eya Tito Okello Lutwa. Then that begins a new chapter. So in understanding football, on the 23rd of November 1985, it was a smoke screen. Nti abagagga baali bamaze okutereeza ensi. Ebisigadde temubimbuuza bye sijja kugendamu kubanga ebyo byo ate nabyo biwanvu. Mujja kumbuuza olutalo lwa Museveni, olw'eruweero, olutalo twalulimu olwo, bamuzeeyi baffe baalulimu. That's not the conversation. The conversation is football. Mukitegera bulungi ennyo. Ati today our mommy. So my mom navigates her way through in the civil service. Lwakuba nayagadde nnyo okuavoiding okussamu amannya g'abantu. Nandibadde mbwa amanya ne mutegera kye njogera wano. N'emikwano gye yalina, n'emikwano far and wide paka. The first lady during Idi Amin's regime yali Sarah Kyolaba. Era ku mbaga ya mzeeyi wange ne mama wange Idi Amin bwe yajja, I think there's a lot of ebyabakulu, you get to know people, and then that's how the brief years she was. Jali emyaka 4-5, and that was it. So in a way, or one way or another, I think my mom was able to navigate so many things. Nti Uganda Development Corporation yakomawo mu 1980. But it was under the statutory waliwo statute eyali ewandiikiddwa in the 50s during the days of the bamusaazi Ignatius bani abo bonna abo abatandika pretty much the politics of Uganda. It was the legislative council biwanvu bidde mabega paka, but tutuuka mu biseera bya independence around there, that's when pretty much they are the first to reckon. Kubanga ne Obote naye byalimu era byebimuleeta mu politics. Okiraba Obote bibyamuleeta mu politics ebyo ebyasuli Lango cooperatives byani byonna ebyo lwakuba kati ebyo that needs another kind of research so that UDC ng'ekomawo kitegeera era mami n'aba nga afuuka so very very powerful during that time paka mu 85 gabe nabagamba nti the climax of this was a near divorce. Kwa mzee yakwata sente mpitirivu nnyo okuteka mu syndicate eyo nebibatabula. There was this situation because my mom had privileged access to a lot of information mu government. Bamanyanga sente bwe zatambulanga ne zidde not zifulumye zigenda kudda zigenda mu bino zigenda so those kind of things even politics. So by 1985 Uncle Patrick bamulonda kuba chairman. Ekyo kyo twakyogerako mu Synopsis. Niye waaliwo enjuyi ezaali divided factions abatayagala kino abatayagala kiri because kano ka period ke baabeera mu band when they band Express ka affecting a new club kati yalina ogigatta era bwagigatta kyaplayinga nnyo mu ebyaliwo at the time kubanga n'ensi nayo yalaba kyeyekwatako. They held on to something and Express seemed to have that influence on the people. Kakati omupiira ne gulabika nga gugenda kukola ki? Kutereeza Uganda. Naye kati abagagga baali stuck nga balina okukola ki? They had to support Uncle Patrick. Ye crossover gye twayogerako crossover from KCC to Express. And my dad was pivotal there as one of the patron supporters. Abaaliwo ab'amaanyi ennyo era wayogeranga Chanda ng'omanya KCC. Kiraba. So when it came to the final, it had to be a decisive win. There was no compromise about anything. It was a dress rehearsal. So you could see what was going to come next. Nze buchanga mbeerawo nabagamba I have never seen such eager anticipation, fever pitch excitement and tension. Nali mwana muto nali mu P5 e Buganda Road. Ye situation eyaliwo mukitegeera nga bwe munaabeera n'omuyimbi gwe mwagala ne bagamba nti concert eno egenda kukikuba nejjuza bweti nebooga and people turn up and they are waiting for that moment omuyimbi aveeyo and then you see the euphoria and that kind of situation I'm talking about. Byebyo byenzijjukira. So ali Synopsis yaffe bwetu bwegenze era bwetu bwewedde muntegedde bulungi nnyo. I think it was justice to this conversation. Tuginyumiza tugiwadde obudde ate tugiyigiddemu ebintu bingi nnyo nange bye nali sirina chance kutegeera at the time and n'ebyaliwo nebyenzijjukira namuyemizoga nti I remember this, I remember that, oh this and that, and these are very key events, critical events that happen. So are we good? Are we good? Yebera emboozi ate kati lwakuba kati from recollection you reflect, and from reflection you recount, and then you make sense of things. Ebintu bitunyumiza tebibaddeemu nti no gundi yali mukyamu nti gundi yakino byebibeerawo oba nti biri mu politics ali mu buli kimu n'awakawawo wabeerawo politics. In your daily life you're politicking, you're making decisions, you're living through right, you're living through left, wrong, everything happens. Munfuna bulungi nnyo. Kakati next week tugenda kunyumya ku mboozi ya the long awaited retold story of Kenya, of the Kenyan beauty. Are we good? Yeah. So you got me there. So mboozi eriwo. So I think we can call it a summation in those words, as we have had a good run. It has been a good run, and we shall continue with the rest. Okay, people.